everybody, thank you for joining me for today's yoga. This is going to be a core focus class today. So strengthening our core can help improve our posture, but it can also help with relieving back pain, and it can help us with transitioning through yoga poses. If you're working with any injuries today, just be mindful, back out of poses if they don't feel good. If you want to use a block or a strap in your practice, just have one to hand. I don't intend to use one today, but if you have a regular practice and you like to use one, just have one to hand. If you've done any of my sessions before, you will see that they are usually about 30 minutes. I don't spend too long on settling ourselves into practice before we start, and I don't spend long in Shavasana if we even have a Shavasana. So we're going to start today in a comfortable seated position. I'm going to sit cross-legged. You can sit on your feet or just lying on your back. We're just going to take a few moments here just to settle ourselves. You can close the eyes or just lower the gaze. Just relax the face, relaxing the body. Starting to quiet the mind, letting go of any thoughts. And starting to bring our awareness to our breath, taking our inhales and exhales through the nose. Trying to make our inhales and exhales the same length, so maybe inhale in for a count of 4 and exhale in for a count of 4. On our next inhale, we'll circle our arms up towards the ceiling, interlacing the fingers, pushing the palms away from us. Trying to keep those shoulders back. Ears are in line with the biceps here, pushing through the palms, reaching up out of the waist. And exhaling to release the arms. We're going to bring our arms out in front of us, bending at the elbows. Going to take our right elbow underneath the left elbow, coming into eagle arm, so maybe bringing the backs of the hands together, or maybe you can wrap twice, bringing the palms of the hands together. If this isn't accessible for you today, just hold on to the shoulders. We're just opening up into the upper back, inhaling to lift the elbows, exhaling to drop the shoulders. On our next exhale, releasing the arms, bringing them out wide, and then bringing them back in front of the shoulders, bending at the elbows. This time we'll take the left elbow underneath the right elbow, maybe binding once and maybe binding twice. Inhaling to lift the elbows, exhaling to drop the shoulders. Feeling that opening in between the shoulder blades. On our next exhale, we'll release, bringing the arms out wide. And then coming into our tabletop pose. So our wrists are directly into the shoulders, our knees are underneath the hips. We're going to bring our right leg out behind us at hip height, pushing through the heel. If you're feeling balanced here, we can bring our opposite arm out in front of us. Engaging that core. Taking an inhale here out long. As we exhale, we're bringing the elbow to knee round in through the upper back, drawing the belly in towards the spine. Inhale to push the hands, push the foot away. Exhale, bringing the elbow to knee. Inhaling to push out. Exhaling, elbow to knee. Inhaling to push out. Last time, elbow to knee. And then releasing that hand and knee back down. We'll go the opposite side, so bringing the left leg out behind us at hip height, pushing through the heel. Bringing the opposite arm out in front of us, engaging that core to help you feel balanced. Taking an inhale here. As we exhale, elbow to knee, rounding through the upper back. Inhaling to push everything out. Exhaling, elbow to knee, drawing that belly in towards the spine. Inhaling to push everything out. Exhaling, elbow to knee. Inhaling to stretch out. Exhaling, elbow to knee. And then releasing that hand and knee back down. We'll come to standing on our knees and turn into the long edge of the mat. We're going to come into gate pose, so we're going to bring our right leg out to the right with our toes and our knees pointing to the long edge of the mat. Resting our right arm on our right leg, we're going to lift our left arm up towards the ceiling. Taking an inhale here as we lift up out the waist. As we exhale, we're taking a side bend towards that straight leg. Opening up into the left side of the body, keeping that left shoulder rolling back. Feeling those obliques crunching together on the right side. Inhale to come back through to centre, and then bending into the elbows, bringing our palms facing forward, our fingertips towards the side of the head. We're going to work into the obliques on the left side this time. So on our next exhale, we're going to take a side bend away from that straight leg. Inhaling to come back through to centre. Exhaling to dip down. Inhaling, engaging that core, coming back through to centre. Exhaling to take the side bend. Inhaling to come back through to centre. One final time. Exhaling. Inhaling to come back through to centre. And then bringing that right knee back underneath the right hip. We're going to bring our left leg out to the left with our toes and knees pointing to the long edge of the mat. Resting our left hand on our left leg. We're going to bring our right arm up towards the ceiling. Inhaling as we lift up out the waist. Exhaling, coming into our gate pose. So reaching that right arm up and over. Opening to the right side body. Right shoulder is rolling back. Chest is open. On an inhale, engaging that core, bringing that chest back through to centre, bending at the elbows, bringing our fingertips to the side of our head. On an exhale, we can take a side bend away from that straight leg. Inhaling to engage that core, coming back through to centre. Exhaling to drop down. Inhaling to come back through to centre. Exhaling to lower. Inhaling to lift. Exhaling to lower. Inhaling to lift. Bringing our left knee back underneath the left hip. We're going to come into child's pose. So bringing our big toes together, hips down onto the heels, laying our chest down along the thighs, arms out long, forehead onto the mat. And then keeping our chest low, we're going to start to walk our chest and hands over to the left. Keeping that right hip down, going as far over to the left as you can without that left hip, right hip popping up. Feeling that stretch all up the right side body into the right shoulder, reaching those right fingertips away from you. And then keeping that chest low, we're going to walk our hands as far over to the right. If you've got the room, I don't have much room in my filming space here. Keeping that left hip down, feeling that opening into the left side body this time. And then walking our hands and chest back through to centre. On an inhale, we'll come into our tabletop pose. And we'll move through some cat-cow. So on an inhale, dropping the belly, tailbone lifts, gaze comes forward. Exhaling to round and contract chin to chest, drawing that belly in towards the spine. Inhaling as we drop the belly, tailbone lifts. Exhaling to round and contract. 2 more times in your own breath. Maybe as you exhale, you want to push a little weight into the palms of the hands and rounding through that up a bit, back a bit more. And after your next exhale, coming into a neutral spine. And we'll work into our first downward facing dog. So walking our hands slightly in front of the shoulders, fingertips blade wide, feet to hip width distance apart, tucking the toes. On our next exhale, we're sending that tailbone high. With a nice flat back here, you can keep a bend in the knees if you're feeling tight down the back of the legs. You might want to pedal out the feet. Finding length in the spine here. Pushing through the fingertips and knuckles of the hands. Reaching that tailbone high. And then coming into some stillness with the legs for 2 breaths. On our next inhale, we're going to bend into the knees and start to walk our feet up towards our hands, coming into our Ragdoll Fold.
So keeping our feet hip width distance apart, maybe catching a hold of opposite elbows of the hands, letting the chest lay down across the thighs, keeping a bend in the knees, maybe swaying gently from side to side, loosening down the lower back, all the way down the back of the body. And then releasing those fingertips down to the mat, keeping a bend in the knees, pushing through the heels. We're going to roll slowly all the way up the spine, coming to standing. And when we come to standing, make sure those shoulders are dropped down away from the ears, crown of the head is lifted, palms of the hands are facing forward, lengthening that tailbone down. And we'll start to flow. On an inhale, circling our arms up towards the ceiling, palms meet overhead. Exhale, bring those hands out wide, diving down over the body. Inhaling into our flat back, half lift, palms onto shins, or fingertips can stay on the mat, reaching the crown of the head away from the tailbone. Exhaling as we come into our forward fold. Placing our hands on the mat, stepping back into plank pose, engaging that core here. You can lower your knees down for to the mat for support if you want to, otherwise we're going to bend at the elbows as we lower down on an exhale all the way to the mat. And tucking those toes when we get there. Inhaling into cobra. Feeling that opening down the front of the body, keeping those elbows bent. Exhaling to lower. Tucking those toes, pushing hips back towards the heels and making our way into downward facing dog. On our next inhale, we're going to lift our right leg up towards the ceiling, keeping the hips squared. On an exhale, we're drawing this knee in towards the nose, drawing that belly in towards the spine, engaging that core here, rounding through the upper back. We're going to step this right foot in between the hands, keeping those back toes tucked and back knee is lifted. We're lifting into our high lunge, so reaching our arms up overhead, hips are squared, chest is facing forward, hands are shoulder width distance apart. Lifting up out of the waist here. We don't want to flare out those lower ribs, so tuck those lower ribs in, engaging the core. On our next exhale, keeping our arms where they are, we're going to start to lower the chest forward, core is engaged, keeping the belly off the thighs and hold here. On an inhale, we lift the chest. Exhale, bringing our palms through to heart center. We're moving into a prayer twist, so bringing our left arm to the outside of the right knee as we turn our chest over to the right. Squeezing our palms together, trying to get them through to heart center. Trying to keep that belly off the spine, so drawing that belly in towards the spine. Sorry, keeping that belly off the thigh. And drawing that right shoulder back. On our next exhale, we're going to lower our hands down to frame this front foot. We're stepping our right foot back. We're coming into our Dolphin Plank. So elbows are directly under the shoulders, engaging that core. Forearms and wrists are in line with the elbows here. On our next exhale, we're going to walk these feet in, coming into Dolphin. We can keep our legs bent if we need to, so keep a bend in the knees. Tailbone is high. Same as downward facing dog, we want to find length in the spine here, so try and keep a nice flat back. Crown of the head isn't on the mat, we're about an inch or so off the mat. If it's too much to have your hands like this, you can interlace the fingers, and that takes the weight a bit more into the forearms and out of the upper back. We're not here for long. On our next exhale, we're going to bend the knees, lower them down to the mat, coming into tabletop pose. Stepping the feet back in plank pose, we'll move through a flow. Exhaling, bending at the elbows to lower. Inhaling into cobra. Exhale into lower, making our way into downward facing dog. And we'll move on the left side on an inhale, lifting that left leg up towards the ceiling, keeping those hips squared. Exhale, bringing that knee in towards the nose, drawing that belly in towards the spine, rounding through the upper back, and then stepping this left foot in between the hands. Coming into our high lunge, so keeping back toes tucked, back knee is lifted, reaching those arms up overhead. Chest and hips facing forward. Pull in, left hip back, right hip forward here to square off the hips. Left knee is directly over the left ankle. Now engaging that core here. On an exhale, we're going to start to lower the chest down, keeping the arms where they are, keeping that belly off the thigh and holding here. On our next inhale, lifting the chest, exhaling, bring our hands through to heart center, bringing right elbow to the outside of our right knee, turning our chest, turning our chest over to the left, squeezing our palms through to get them through to heart center, keeping that belly off the thigh, so drawing it in towards the spine. On our next exhale, we'll release those hands down to frame this front foot, stepping left foot back, coming into our dolphin plank, so bringing elbows directly under the shoulders, lower those hips, core is engaged. Forearms and wrists are in line with the elbows here. On our next exhale, start to walk those feet in, coming into dolphin. So taking that tailbone high, keep a bend in the knees if you need to, trying to keep a nice flat back. On our next exhale, we're going to lower our knees down to the mat. Coming into tabletop pose, we'll move through a flow. Stepping back into plank, exhaling to lower. Inhaling into cobra, exhaling to lower, making our way into downward facing dog. From here, we'll bend the knees and we can hop or step up to the top of the mat. Coming into half lift, flat back. Exhaling to fold. Inhale, circling our arms up towards the ceiling, palms meet overhead. Exhale, bringing our hands down through heart center. So from here, we're going to bring our knee up in line with the hip, so bending it into the right knee and bringing it up in line with the hip. So using these hip flexors here and engaging the core, reaching those arms up overhead. If you have the room, you can extend your right leg out straight. I don't quite have the room, so I'm not going to do that today. Rooting down through that standing leg, drawing the kneecap up on the left leg, engaging the quad. Engaging the core here, this will help you feel balanced. On our next exhale, bring our palms through to heart center. We're going to transition into warrior three, so we're going to take this right leg out behind us, bring it up in line with the hip, pushing through the heel, straight leg here, reaching the crown of the head forward, engaging that core to protect the lower back. Making sure that right hip is rolling down, so it's not opening out to the side. We're not here for long. On our next exhale, we're going to bring these right toes down to meet the left toes. We're coming into chair, big toes together, heels slightly apart, bending into the knees as we lower our hips down. Keep this chest lifted and our palms through at heart center. Weight is in the heels here, hugging those thighs and knees in towards each other. From here, we're going to move into a prayer twist like we did in the high lunge. So we're going to take our left elbow to the outside of our right knee as we turn our chest over to the right. Trying to squeeze those palms together to get them through to heart center. Having a check to make sure our left knee hasn't popped forward. Inhaling to come back through to center. This time taking right elbow to the outside of the left knee, turning our chest over to the left, making sure right knee isn't popping forward this time. Keeping that core tight. Inhaling to come back through to center. We're back in our chair pose. From here we're going to transition into boat pose. So you can definitely lower your hands to the mat for support if you want to. Otherwise we're just going to start to lower those hips down, bringing our sitting bones onto the mat, and then bringing our shins up in line with the knees, pushing through the heels, lifting the chest, maybe reaching those arms up overhead, or bringing our arms out in front of us at shoulder height, engaging the core. If anyone likes to do full boat, you can. So you can straighten into the legs and straighten into the arms. I don't enjoy full boat, so I'm going to stay in half boat today. Keep that chest lifted, shoulders rolling back. We're not here for much longer. On our next exhale, crossing at the ankles, bringing our palms down onto the mat, stepping back into plank. We'll move through a flow. Exhaling, bending at the elbows to lower. Inhaling into cobra. Exhaling as we lower, making our way into downward facing dog. On our next inhale, bending into knees, gaze comes towards the top of the mat. We can hop or step up to the hands, coming into our half lay flat back. Exhaling to fold. Inhale, circling our arms up towards the ceiling, palms meet overhead. Exhale, bringing those hands down through heart center. So we'll do that sequence on the left. So bending into the left knee, we're bringing our knee up in line with the hip. Rooting down through that standing leg, engaging the core here, reaching those arms up overhead. If people have the room, you can straighten into that left leg. When we do balancing pose, if you focus on something that isn't going to move, that can help you feel a little bit more grounded. But don't worry if you're wobbling. If you're next to a wall, you can use that for support. On our next exhale, bring our palms through to heart center. We'll transition into warrior three. So sending this left leg out behind us. Core is engaged here. Pushing through the heel. We're making a T shape with the body here. So straight leg, flat back, reaching that crown of the head forward. Left hip is rolling down. Feeling strong in that standing leg. Keep the chest lifted. Reaching that crown of the head forward away from the tailbone. On our next exhale, lowering this left foot down, we're coming into chair pose. Big toes together, heels apart, bending into the knees. Lowering those hips down. And we'll move into our prayer twist again. So taking our left elbow to the outside of our right knee, turning our chest towards the right. Drawing the belly in towards the spine here to help with the twist. Squeezing those thighs together. And then bringing our chest back through to center. We'll go the opposite side, taking right elbow to left knee. Squeezing those palms together, trying to get them through to heart center. Having a quick check to make sure that right knee hasn't popped forward like mine just did. And then bringing our chest back through to center, we'll transition into boat. Use your hands for support if you want to, otherwise we're lowering those hips down. When we bring our sitting bones down, we're bringing our shins up in line with the knees, pushing through the heels. Keep the chest lifted, palms together at heart center. Option to bring our arms out in front of us, in front of the shoulders, or bringing them up overhead. Full boat is an option too. Engage in that core, keep the chest lifted. On our next exhale, we'll release and we'll cross at the ankles, Bring the hands down onto the mat, stepping back into plank, moving through a vinyasa. Exhaling, bending at the elbows to lower. Inhaling into cobra. Exhaling to lower. Making our way into downward facing dog. And then lowering our knees down onto the mat. Bringing our legs off to one side. Bring the sitting bones down, legs out long in front of us. So we'll bend into the right knee, bring it in towards the chest, taking the right foot to the outside of the left leg, and then bend it into the left knee, bringing the left heel to the outside of the right hip. If this isn't comfortable, keep that leg out long. Wrapping left arm around the right thigh, keep the chest lifted, taking right arm behind us, coming into our twist. Drawing that belly in towards the spine. Maybe taking your gaze over this right shoulder. Exhaling, coming back through to centre. Bringing both legs out long. This time bending into the left knee, stepping left foot to the outside of the right leg. Option here to bend into the right knee, bring the right heel to the outside of the right hip. Taking our right arm around our left thigh, left fingertips behind us. Drawing that belly in towards the spine to help us twist a little deeper. Maybe taking your gaze over this left shoulder. Exhaling to bring our chest back through to centre. Bringing both legs out long here, drawing the toes back towards you. Your hamstrings are tight, keep a slight bend in the knees. Inhaling as we lift up out of the waist, reaching those arms up overhead. Exhaling, coming into our forward fold. So bringing the hands wherever suits you. So maybe around the soles of the feet, maybe taking peace fingers around the toes. Making this forward fold feel good in the body, especially in the lower back. So no tugging or pulling here. Inhaling to lift the chest. We're going to scoot our sitting bones forward so we've got enough room behind us. We're going to bring our arms out at shoulder height, soles of the feet are on the mat, and slowly with control we're going to roll all the way down the spine until we bring our shoulders and back of the head on the mat. Maybe bringing our heels, bringing our heels a little closer in towards the sitting bones, and maybe you can brush the back of the heels with your fingertips, your arms down along beside you. We'll move into bridge. So on an inhale, we're going to roll all the way up the spine. So lifting the hips, rolling up the spine, coming up onto the shoulders. Chest comes in towards the chin here. Pressing down through the soles of the feet. Making sure those thighs aren't splaying open, so hugging those knees in towards each other. Exhaling to lower all the way down the spine. And we'll go again on an inhale, rolling all the way up the spine. Coming up onto the shoulders, chest is in towards the chin. The upper body feels relaxed here, all the work is going on in the lower body. Exhaling to lower all the way down the spine, vertebrae by vertebrae, until we bring our hips back down onto the mat. Option here now, you can go into wheel if wheel is in your practice. I'm not going to cue it online because I don't feel comfortable cueing quite a challenging pose. So if you want to do a wheel, otherwise we're going to come into another bridge. So on an inhale, we're going to lift the hips, roll all the way up the spine, bring your chest in towards the chin. From here, you can start to shrug your shoulder blades in towards each other, interlacing the fingers so we can push those hips a little higher, pressing through the feet. Opening up into the chest. If anyone is in wheel, option to come out of it and go back into it anytime you need to. And then for those with those fingers interlaced on the mat, release the fingers, release the shoulder blades. We're rolling all the way down the spine until we bring our hips back down onto the mat. And then we're just going to rock our knees from side to side, releasing the lower back. And then we're going to bring our legs out long on the mat, and we're going to bring our palms down onto the mat and shrug them underneath us. So they're roughly, underneath the sitting bones. You might want to keep a bit of bend into the elbows so you can bring them in the right position so they're not down on the thighs. We're going to work it into the abs a little bit more. So bending into the right knee and then into the left knee, bring them in towards the chest, and then sending our legs up towards the ceiling. On an exhale, we're going to lower our right leg down towards the mat, but not quite touch the mat, hover it about an inch. And then inhaling to lift that leg back up towards the ceiling. Exhale, I'm going to lower the left leg down, hover it about an inch off the floor. Inhaling to lift that leg back up. Exhaling, lowering the right leg down. Inhaling to lift. Exhale, lower the left leg down. Inhaling as we lift. Exhaling, lowering both legs down towards the mat, hovering them about an inch off the mat. Inhaling to lift. One more time, lowering those legs down. Inhaling as we lift. One more time, exhaling to lower. Inhaling, engaging that core as we bring those legs back up towards the ceiling. And then releasing our hands from underneath us, bending into the knees. Holding onto the shins, rocking from side to side. And then bringing our arms out at shoulder height. We'll finish off with a twist. So we're going to lower our knees down to the left on an exhale as our gaze comes over to the right. If this isn't comfortable for your neck, you can leave your gaze up towards the ceiling. Keeping that right shoulder down, feeling open in the chest. Doing anything you need to with the legs to make this feel more comfortable. So you can put a block underneath that left knee or make a fist with the left hand, placing it underneath the left knee to plug the gap between the knee and the floor. Or weight the legs down by putting your left hand on your right knee. And just breathing here, breathing into the twist. On our next inhale, engage that core, bring those knees back through to center. On an exhale, dropping those knees down to the right as our gaze comes over to the left, or keeping that gaze up towards the ceiling. Keeping that left shoulder down. Inhaling to bring these knees back through to center. And then wrapping our arms around our shins, maybe taking our nose and forehead up towards the knee, curling ourselves into a little ball. And then releasing head and shoulders back down, holding onto the backs of the thighs. We can rock up and down the spine to come into seated position, or you can roll to one side and push yourself up with your hands. So coming into cross-legged like we started. And we're resting our hands in our lap, shoulders down away from the ears, maybe closing the eyes or lowering the gaze. And just taking a moment here to scan through the body, checking how it's feeling after
after our short practice. And then circling our arms up towards the ceiling, palms meet overhead and bring them down through to heart centre. Bowing our forehead to fingertips. Give yourselves a little thank you for making time to come on the mat today. Thank you. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that practice. I found it quite challenging talking as I was doing some of the poses, and I will see you next time for the next practice. Thanks. Bye.